And it's 5:15. I'd like to call the Economic Development Committee to order. Roll call will be taken.
Yes.
The Stanford Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America. Stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
All right, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as read? Second. Motion made by April, seconded by Mr. Thompson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Can I get a motion to approve the March 29th, 2022 minutes? Okay, a motion was made by Mr. Boucher, seconded by Ms. Wolf. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next will be update on the WEDC's Connect Communities Program. April?
I'm already on. All right, so I just want to give the Economic Development Committee an update on the Connect Communities program that we applied for. Just briefly, the Connect Communities program is a state program that was created by the WEDC, which stands for Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. Program that supports communities and revitalization efforts. They provide training and networking for communities. So our downtown revitalization subcommittee that was created by the chamber applied for this program last year. The city, I believe Economic Development, correct me if I'm wrong, funded the $100 application fee. So this program provides resources and technical support, and they also support local commercial district businesses and property owners. We have a kickoff meeting coming up with John Bartz. Mr. Bartz is the Regional Economic Development Director. This meeting is going to take place downtown in downtown district, Grove Street and North Water Street. Area is invited, so all alderpersons, everyone from this committee will receive an invitation. It is May 31st at noon. The purpose of the kickoff meeting is to share information about our Connect Communities program with businesses and community members. We'll be reviewing future developmental development projects and walking the entire downtown area. Anything you would add, Jen?
Yep, I think you pretty much covered it all. Amazing.
If you no questions, thank you, April. Next, we'll go on to the plan, North Water Street Business Outreach and the Fox Cities Chamber Bazaar After Dark event, June 3rd. Yeah.
So continuing more downtown efforts, we have a planned business outreach day for next Monday with Eric Broughton from the Fox Cities Chamber. He should have been, or the Fox Cities Chamber should have been making contact. Tim, did anybody reach out to you from the Fox Cities Chamber yet? Okay. I know they're in the process of doing that, but we're going to be working on an outreach effort on Monday, May 2nd, to gain input on how things are going, and to talk about the upcoming Bazaar After Dark event. That is a Fox Cities Chamber event. They filled out a special events application. They've been working with Ginger and Chief on the logistics for that event, but that's planned for June 3rd. It's a street market event, artists, live music, fresh food, and the chamber, the Fox Cities Chamber does this in different areas in the Fox Valley who are chamber members. Just to promote, it's another activity to promote downtown and get more people to visit in different areas. So we're kind of, I'm interested to see how this turns out because it's actually an event that's been focused in the Fox Valley for the most part, and now it's going to come to London. So it's going to be interesting to see how many people who frequent that event are going to come visit New London. So it'll be kind of interesting. If you want more information on that event, I did include the link for the event in your packet. My memo. Any question on the outreach or the event?
So did you say there was supposed to have an outreach that occurred prior to the outreach?
I believe Eric was reaching out.
Yeah, according to Eric, he wanted a list of all the businesses on North Water Street and Grove Street because the letter would be sent in the mail to property owners and businesses, letting them know that we were going to be walking downtown the first week of May. And I also advocated with the Fox Cities Chamber strongly in the local building and other communications to make sure that any businesses that are around on Water Street that wanted the area in front of their business open, they contact the Fox Cities Chamber. Area we have smart to-
More questions? None, thank you, Mr. Ward. Move on to the report on attendance, Wisconsin Workforce Development Association's TDCON Talent Development Council Conference. Jan?
Yeah, so this was the event, I believe, John Pache, you're the one that found this one. I believe you brought this up. And Dave Dorsey and I did attend that. Trying to get back to my memo here. So that was on April 7th and 8th. Out of Wisconsin Dells, and it was targeting worker shortages in Wisconsin. It was pretty informative, but I think both Dave and I agree that the benefit was a little bit stronger towards gaining knowledge on just personnel situations, which we're in that world right now, trying to become attractive and work on employee retention. So there was a lot of knowledge that I definitely gained out of that over an economic development benefit. However, they did have a few topics on economic development. And then I put a bunch of notes in here and takeaways from the training. Workforce has changed. I mean, all these seminars that we went to, I mean, there was a basic underlying reoccurring theme. You know, the power has just shifted from the employers to the employees. In the past, it used to be that employees were lucky to work for a business. Now it's the employers are lucky to get employees to work for them. So employers are getting very creative, raising wages. I mean, you go in the valley, you can't go more than a couple hundred feet and you're seeing, you know, employment size. People are looking for help, you know, everywhere. So they're getting creative, large signing bonuses, raising wages. They're really doing some different stuff in student loan payoffs and paying for benefits like Netflix subscriptions and gym memberships and house cleaning and pet insurance. We also found out recently that Appleton Parks and Rec just offered signing bonuses for seasonal employees. So that's the first time I heard for that type of activity going on. So this is here, this is real, this is staying for a while. A couple other things, I'll just kind of go through a couple of these highlights real quick. They talked about stay interviews, pretty much talk to your employees, see why they're staying. Ask if they've been thinking about leaving and why, and then see what you can do to identify that and combat that so those people would stay. Diversity, equity, inclusion, that was repeated over and over in the presentations there. 3 largest barriers, affordable housing, transportation, and childcare. And that's not different. I mean, that's been a reoccurring theme for years, but it's definitely something that's preventing people from getting in the workforce. They had a panel there from Jerry Duchesne. He's the executive director for the Wisconsin League of Municipalities. Also an individual from the Wisconsin Builders Association and the Community Development Alliance. And they talked about a new report that the League of Wisconsin Municipalities put out to really give municipalities some ideas of how they can revamp their local ordinances to encourage workforce housing. And I put a link in my memo if you guys want to go look at that. But you know, whatever municipalities can do to increase density. I mean, look at setback sizes for houses and the lot sizes and things like that to really encourage workforce housing and try to get that cost of the housing down to encourage to be more affordable. And then whatever we can do to fast track internal permitting processes. You know, time is money for a lot of things, and whatever, you know, the longer it sits with the municipality for permitting process, the longer the contractors are waiting for things to get done. So whatever municipalities can do to fast track processes, that was a recommendation. They also talked about companies like Frito-Lay and Scott Forge. They're teaming up with the Wisconsin Workforce Development Association and creating successful youth apprenticeship programs. So I want to talk to the school district. I don't know how involved they're getting with that and if they are, but these 2 companies for sure are working strongly with the WWDA on creating youth apprenticeship programs, and those youth are getting experience and a handful of them are staying with the company. So it's been a good internship and apprentice program for some of those larger corporations. A couple other things I'll just kind of talk about. They had a panel discussion with Democrat Representative Evan Golke and Republican State Representative David Murphy from Greenville to talk about the roles of politics and both sides of the aisle. And it was clear that the parties don't agree at all. And it was very, you just had to smile and laugh because they are polar opposites, and it's no wonder things don't get done down in Madison. So it was kind of interesting to see. So with that, I don't know, Dave, did I miss anything? I mean, Dave was there as well, and I don't know if he has anything else he wants to share and add.
No, like usual, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. Can you hear me?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. It was more geared toward.
Dave, you muted yourself. Dave, you muted yourself halfway through your conversation.
Oh, I got her now, I think.
Yep.
I'm having a little audio problem here. My earphones ain't working, so I got to talk. No, it was good. It was a good learning experience to go down there. There's some good things that we can bring back to the city to help. Like I said, you pretty much covered everything. Thanks, Chad.
Yep. So on an economic development stance, I think one of the biggest things to look at for us is, and this is something with the Planning Commission as well, to really take some time and look at this document that the League of Wisconsin Municipalities turned out and see what recommendations maybe we can hit on for changing our zoning code and our building code to encourage more workforce housing. I think that's something as a takeaway from them. And then, maybe work with the school district in promoting an apprenticeship program, But obviously a lot of this stuff is going to be on the business and what type of creative benefits, what type of internal policies, what type of things that businesses can do to really attract and retain employment. But a lot of this stuff is something we're going to use too, because we're in the same boat. We're hurting for employees as well. And, we need to be creative and look at what we can do. So any questions?
I just have a comment. I'm really glad you two were able to go. And I think that, as you come across small business owners possibly that economic development with business startups and things like that, some of these things, it's good that you have made a few connections, and which you always are very good at with working with all businesses, but it just puts the whole situation into frame. There's been on this committee long enough where I've heard people say things like, nobody wants to work, they just want to sit home and get it. And it's just, the more times any of us can hear the truth and reality about that, that issues employers are facing, but, in workforce retention, it's just good to reinforce that. So I'm glad you guys were able to go. Thank you for providing those links. There's a lot of good information right in this memo here, so appreciate you guys taking the time.
And they talked about that exactly. They brought up statistics about the unemployment numbers in Wisconsin and how it's been lowest in years and stuff like that. And there are people out there that aren't working that could be working. You're going to have that wherever you go. But they talked about, one session was talking about, not only how do we attract people from outside Wisconsin to come into Wisconsin, but also really target the ones that are capable internally in Wisconsin. I think I targeted, they talked about targeting those with disabilities better. How can you be accommodating to really utilize those with disabilities to do the job? Those coming out of incarceration. I mean, they said that's a workforce that, that's bodies that are available. And there's a percentage of those people that can, come in the workforce and be productive. And then veterans, what we can do to attract veterans. So not only trying to attract the ones from the outside into Wisconsin, but really, what can we do to target, these groups and really make them productive in Wisconsin.
Hey, John, I'd like to add, thank you for bringing that to our attention. I think that was a great conference to go to, and I knew nothing about it until you brought it up. So for that, thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
I know you've got a public comment, but I might not be here. I was in the Iola area last week. Wapaka Foundry, it's my understanding, had hired a labor recruiting company to find employees for them. They bought a hotel in the Wapaka area, and they've also bought a nursing home in the Iola area to provide housing for them. I understand that's not typical housing for families and stuff. That's how far they're stretching themselves to bring employees in. Not unlike what GLK and Bear Creek is doing with the Rainbow Hotel up here. Those people come from Miami and work here for a period of time and go back, and they just kind of continually rotate. So I would say I think for an opportunity like that here, obviously we don't have any things like that, but that's just something that Wapaka Foundry is trying out. And that's just what I heard from one individual. So if somebody's got time to check into that, that's what's happening over there. So thank you.
Any more questions or? Well, that's kind of interesting how we have a worker shortage, but we also have a housing shortage. So that's something that people are either not working there, they're going to Appleton. Gas prices going up, maybe would be might start looking more open. So needing to actually do that.
No, go ahead.
I have a good friend right now who lives in the area, the other side of the area, so 10 miles west of Washington Bay. He's been trying to buy a house for like 6 months, and he's getting all good. And we finally found one that is able to rent down here, just on the street right here. But, he's gonna relocate here, and the first thing. Now he's looking at cut half of the drive down, but the first thing he's doing, once he gets moved in here down the street, is to start hitting the factories in London. He's gonna avoid that drive to the bay altogether. So, yeah, and it's someday here, come down and shop and it's there. Christian people, that reason too on the street, but I'll have to tell you the story of the journey of trying to find a place to live in. So, we've got the development coming here next year, and Randy's building that development out there. Over by Becker Road there. That'll help a little bit alleviate things, but yeah, it's you don't realize how difficult it is when you've been in one spot for a long time, but getting the workers to locate here, having housing built will definitely all the business.
Spend money weekly looking for housing, constantly reaching off that landlord tenant guideline. I have employers reaching out to me saying we're trying to relocate employees to areas that are having trouble finding housing, so.
Doing these development projects, have they had particular zoning requests that the city was able to accommodate or not accommodate? Are the issues that we're running into in terms of housing that we should be aware of?
They did not request, so they're staying within the regulations of our current zoning. That is for traditional housing, like what you see, like in the developments outside of town. The league, and I have not had a chance to look at the document yet, but they're talking about trying to increase the density. So, you potentially would see neighborhoods with much shorter setbacks, much shorter yards between properties, or much smaller lot sizes on a house. So we have, and I don't know what they are off the top of my head. We have setbacks from the side lots, from the front lot, from the back lot. I think the league's documents is encouraging to consider shrinking those requirements to make, like if you got a development that you put more houses, in that development, the houses would be smaller, so the cost would be a little more affordable to those people buying it.
Well, it seems like, I mean, if you want to be really serious about density, the issue is not single family houses, it's multi-family housing. At least duplexes or more, and I think, so I think of like the Q development that did duplexes out there. Were there any issues that he ran into when he was trying to do that? Was it Romanesco that did?
Over by high school,
Well, no, I'm talking about the duplexes getting. Yeah.
was before my time.
Is Romanesco doing duplexes out by the high school?
Yep.
Those are they all duplexes or are there?
There's a combination.
There's a combination.
A combination, and I think that's why you see the combination of Randy Retzloff wanting to do multifamily and single family, because his multifamily helps, fund some of the single family development. There's a synergy between that. I see Swiderski doing the same thing, they're planning out by House Road. They're doing multifamily development and single family development, so. I don't know if that's tradition in the past, that you've had a developer come in and do both, or just multifamily or just single family, but at least the last two developers, Romanesco and SCS, they wanted to do both on their development sites.
I wonder from an affordable housing standpoint, how affordable even the duplexes are. I mean, if we're talking about being able to cater to the GLKs of the world, a brand new duplex, even though it's great, is it really within the
Market
reach
value
of
is high.
that kind of a employment market?
And on another consideration with that is, and maybe these developments are market and not as much worker or, the affordable housing, but maybe there's smaller houses that internally in New London that people are migrating and moving up into, that opens up a little bit more affordable housing. So, I mean, as a family grows, they might be upgrading into a larger home that they can afford, and maybe their smaller home, maybe that opens that up too. So hopefully that's a benefit for having more housing in New London as well.
Do we know when people are looking for affordable housing, workforce housing, whether they are looking for rental or purchase opportunities?
Mostly rental on my end.
That would be my gut.
Mhm.
A year ago, a year and a half ago, we did a study on that. We had that information brought in. I don't remember if it was at this committee or where we brought it in, but
Of the developments that we have had recently and are having coming up, what is the mix of ownership versus rental?
So I don't have an exact number in front of me by any means, but the Romanesco one over by the high school, I would guess that's about 50-50 in single family versus duplex / condos that he's proposing over there and building over there.
But those are, you still have to purchase those.
A duplex, he might be
I think that's
owning
rental.
those and renting the duplexes out. I don't know if he's gonna sell it and then one person rents on the other side, or if he's going to, or Romanesco is going to own it and then just rent. Randy Retzloff has 6 8-family unit, multifamily units going up over by Oshkosh and Beckert. And I think it was 20 single-family lots that he was gonna put over there. The downtown property, that's gonna be all multifamily, but that's gonna be more of a market rate. It's on the river. It's not gonna be that's gonna be a nicer, higher end on the river type scenario. And then SC Swiderski over by House Road, I think it was 4 buildings. I can't remember how many units are in over there. And I think at least a dozen, if not 20 single family over there as well. We also have over by Eastridge, I can bring up a map and I think that will help. Over by the Eastridge development, just north of that, there was about a 10-acre lot that was purchased and platted off in the 90s. That property was purchased within the last, and that the developer in the 90s didn't do anything with it. So this is East Ridge here. This 10-acre lot here was purchased and platted out, and you can see how it's platted out. In the 90s, nothing was ever done with it. A different individual just bought it in the last year with the hopes to develop it. I think this was his first development. I don't think he's ever done one before. He had to put a bunch of engineering into it, preliminary conceptual engineering into it, because the layout of this current plat is not conducive to current stormwater management regulations with the DNR. So we had to have it redesigned a little bit to accommodate that. But then all of a sudden I heard it was for sale. So he decided, I don't know why, but he decided to put it up for sale. So this 10-acre lot is for sale, which I think would be a great affordable housing development. I've talked to several people about giving them, I mean, I've had phone calls and I've directed people that way. Just most recently, it was either yesterday or late last week, I had a call from a developing company in Appleton. Gave him this information. And I believe he has Tom McHugh as one of their builders. So I thought that would be a good synergy. Because it wasn't, Tom was the one that did all those one on Cedar Street, right? Yep. And it wasn't duplexes, but it was like bi-level, smaller homes.
Very price effective, new homes.
Yes, yes.
He was here before this committee once, and his margin, was real slim on that, but it is beneficial. I mean, he tore an old decrepit house down and put up a new one on its lot, which obviously helps property values and whatnot, but his margin, isn't what he would like to see, and he came here asking if there were any incentives we could do for that, but
I remember that.
but that was the last time we actually had him talking, with him and stuff, but
Maybe
Yeah.
something like
he
this,
does
we
good
look at our,
projects.
we
Good.
look at our lot size requirements, because there are requirements for minimum lot sizes. And maybe we need to look at that and look at the League of Wisconsin municipalities, what the recommendations are, and then maybe there's some opportunity to, shrink our lot sizes for a development, that you can get more density in here, which makes it more effective for a developer, which decreases the cost of the property owner.
Any more questions or thoughts on that?
Good discussion.
Yeah, that was a good discussion. I also like to thank Mr. Horth and Mr. Dorsey for attending that conference and sharing with us what they learned. All right, on to the next thing. We update proposed creation of TID District number 6 and proposed expansion of TID District number 5.
Just an update where we are at with both of those. TID number 6, that is the Titan development. And I'm bringing up the project plan right now. That has been reviewed and blessed by Planning Commission. It was reviewed and blessed by City Council, and then it is going to the Joint Review Board, which is going to be on May 17th, before the council meeting, for the Joint Review Board to review. Again, TID number 6 is a small TID district. Our consultant from Eller said this is a very basic, simple TID. It's got 6 parcels in it right now. 3 of the parcels have buildings on them. 3 of them do not. And the reason why we threw the 3 buildings that do not have they're vacant parcels, they were right next to this TID. So, I mean, it was just a great opportunity to throw them in the TID, that maybe there's an opportunity that we could incentivize developers or builders to put developments on these 3 parcels. But the primary purpose of this one was to help and assist Titan Industries with an expansion. They're looking at a $2 million expansion to their property right here. We're finishing up negotiations with them on a developer's agreement that should be coming to the city council, the finance personnel hopefully next week, and the city council after that. But on the flip side, it helps us because there's a drainage ditch right here that bisects Enterpipe. That is a public responsibility. There's an easement that the city is responsible for maintenance of this drainage ditch. It is eroding, and the culvert that goes underneath the road here, a lot of that stormwater collects, in this area and then comes across and then goes down and ends up near the Wolf River eventually. We need to do some maintenance on this ditch and repairs because it's eroding and the culvert. So this was a very creative way for us to use TID dollars to make that public improvement instead of using general tax dollars. So that's kind of an update on TID number 6. I know the project plans will be reviewed by the Planning Commission for Titan on Thursday at the Planning Commission meeting. So their engineered drawings for their expansion is coming before the Planning Commission in 2 days. So provided that's blessed at that level, then they should be breaking ground pretty soon. So we would definitely want to have a groundbreaking ceremony with them to celebrate their expansion. They're looking at doing phase 1 now. They've actually mildly engineered for phase 2. They're just made plans for that. So hopefully in the next couple of years, things are going great for them that they can look on phase 2 as well. So that's pretty cool right there. Any questions on TID 6?
Yes, a question I had is, there was some discussion at one of the meetings that you can only use so much of the city for TID.
Yep.
Are we getting close to that at all? Do you know how much?
Don't quote me. I think it's 12%. Judy and I just had a conversation about that other day, and she was going to start looking into that. So, and that was one of the reasons why we made this smaller and simple, to allow us the opportunity if there's another development somewhere else, not that we're biting this off huge and that, took up all our capacity. So Judy was going to look into that, see where we're at.
I guess if we had any more space to create any more TIDs, maybe look into that area out on House Road, but develop into multifamily for, entice people to build out there, I mean.
Possibly.
Would that be an incentive to get somebody to buy that and develop it?
For the Swiderski project out on House Road, just as a thought, we don't want to TID everything, because if you TID everything, you're not going to have any increase in your taxable value now. So like the Randy Retzloff project down at the end of at Beckard and Oshkosh. If you remember, we created the TID district for his multifamily, but the single family is outside the TID. So we're not going to collect that increment for the multifamily for 20 years because we're using that to fund things. But as the development in the single family, hopefully in synergy, starts developing right away, we collect that tax dollars for our budget right away. The SC Swiderski thing I kind of like too, because we're incentivizing and doing the TID district for the downtown project with them. But hopefully they are planning and do the development on House Road that we can collect those tax dollars for our budget right now instead of waiting 20 years for that opportunity. I can't say anything right now, but you're right. We definitely want to make sure we're being strategic in our development areas where we're using TID to maximize that effectiveness, but not to TID everything, because then all of a sudden we're not going to see any taxable benefit to the city's budget now.
Tim, to answer your question in a different aspect too, if we were to put develop a TID over there right now, you have it for 20 years and nobody develops on that for the next 10 years. Well, you've already taken 10 years off of that TID with zero development. As to, like you're saying, offer it to them, well, we can offer that at any given time. So a developer comes in, we can have that discussion and develop it then.
You definitely want the developer in pocket first.
Right.
I wasn't thinking about the House Road Swiderski one. I was just thinking about that lot that we were just talking about. How can we get somebody interested in that? Because I get that you'd be, not getting tax revenue, but you'd be bringing more workforce into the city, which would be benefits. So,
Johnny, wasn't that what McHugh was proposing when he came in? He was looking for a TID incentive.
I think he was, I don't think it was a TID, but I think he was just looking for,
He said we opened up a can of worms with an incentive that we offered another developer. And I thought
Yeah,
it
I
was,
thought it was.
He
for
thought-
Romanesco.
yeah, he thought-
didn't like that.
Yeah, he thought that we were building the roads and everything for Romanesco, and he was just
Oh.
misunderstood a little bit.
okay,
Then he was interested in some land across the street in doing some houses, and he didn't realize that the city had already run sewer and water there years ago,
okay.
and if I remember correctly, I mean, it was a few years ago he was in here.
Mhm.
But the other thing you need to think about with TIDs is the percentage of, only a percentage of your TID is allowed to be housing. The way that it's set up with the state. So this TID 6 with Titan is very positive because it's a business, it's an industry, it's a job, it's a workforce. Manufacturing setting. So, so you always want a healthy percentage of it to be stores or industry, and then have a nice balance of the housing. But
Mm.
Jim's definitely right to be thinking about that workforce shortage issue and the three parcels I'm kind of wondering about are those three vacant addresses there on your
By
Titan.
Titan.
Yeah. There's one of those things where, like Hans's question earlier, where would the zoning type questions come up? And I'm sure like what Jeff brought up about Wapaka, that was, if it was a hotel, it was probably commercial zoned. And they had to probably change something in order to make that
Mhm.
workforce housing. And those odd shaped little lots there, I don't see anybody putting up a factory there, but
I think they're zoned highway commercial right now, or,
Right.
no, actually, I take that back. I think they're zoned manufacturing park. Which, like, I believe Walmart right now is zoned manufacturing park. So I mean, this could be, a combination of commercial or, I'm trying to think, well, like a combination of retail and service, say like Master Electric, like electric store, where they can come in and buy products, but then it's also service as well. So I mean, that could be in here.
But there's one of those density things where kind of back to that previous discussion is if somebody came, or if you got all those employers right there. Randy Retzloff brought this up when he was talking with us, but whenever, and we've had other people talk before us, whenever you can get housing closer to that, to your Tyson's, to your Titan Industries, Interpipe, because not everybody's, some kids right out of college or some people right out of tech, they don't need very big place. They just want a place close to work because not everybody drives. And there's a lot of people out there, we're in Wisconsin, that lose their driver's privileges, but they're darn hard workers. They just made some mistakes. And so, and we're just getting to a point where people aren't wanting to drive vehicles because it costs so much. And millennials are one of those generations. So moving that housing closer to the jobs is always good. So that would be one of those, yeah, it would probably be a few years ago, we'd never even consider letting a housing go on one of those slivers of those vacant addresses, but now it's kind of like,
Now it makes
as
sense.
Dave and Chad brought up at that conference, communities are starting to have to think outside the box, maybe bend on some of the traditional zoning things that were practical. But, so anyway, I just was wondering about those vacant ones. And ideally, it'd be great to have some businesses that maybe machine shops or something that service those industries in that business park.
Yep. But to Tim's point here, how do we make this more attractive? There's not sanitary sewer to this area yet. It's way over here. So can we incentivize it by getting in the sanitary sewer to the lot like we did with the Romanesco? I mean, that could be an option. And do we look at, like Hans was talking about before, really looking at our zoning code and how to, if you can increase the density of the number of buildings in here, that's more attractive for the developer, and the developer can decrease the cost, so that those are type of things that our zoning code might be able to help, some of that as well.
So is that area is owned single family right now? Or would somebody be able to put in duplexes, multifamily?
It is zone R1, single family residential now, which, yeah, I don't think that allows, people- so it's single families.
Yeah, restrictive covenants, large lots. What does that mean? That there are, does that mean that there are currently restrictive covenants on it or that they are allowed?
Allowed, I believe.
They are allowed.
I'd have to look. And then the large lots, I believe, and I'm sure, back when this was all created, I'm sure it was for the nice lots.
Well, I mean, to John's point, I don't know how realistic it is to put affordable family housing or what I will call workforce housing out there because of the transportation issue. I mean, we've always heard time and time again that transportation is such a huge issue here. How are people from there going to get to Tyson unless they drive? But if they can develop on those
You know,
strips, for instance.
I just thought of
mean,
something.
it's-
All that land by Tyson is owned by Tyson.
Yeah, they looked into creating.
And
affordable housing.
Tyson, you know, they're looking for people. Is there, maybe somebody have a conversation with Tyson, be like, hey, can we annex this into the city? Make some
Yeah.
multifamily units right by your factory.
One, I think that was discussed my first year as mayor.
Mhm.
Chad kind of came up with the same conclusion
What
and,
did they say?
I'm gonna keep that confidential for now. But I know one of these situations, the reason why they haven't developed this land right yet, they're trying to keep buffers in case there was any type of chemical spill. Because they use, what do they use for refrigeration?
Ammonia or whatever.
Ammonia for refrigeration. So this was designed as a buffer around here as best they could in case of ammonia leak.
Hmm.
You know, maybe that can be looked into more. But that conversation has, we've talked about that.
But the bottom line is being able to be flexible and we used to have a slogan in New London to cut the red tape type thing. But if somebody has to have a zoning change for something, whether it's in, I can think of one time, back to your question, when a business, local business, very, very good business wanted to expand in an industrial park, but in order to do that, they needed to sell their existing building, and the only person interested in buying that out there was a church. And that sale was allowed them to, and it was that was the incentive that the city provided, was the council and the planning commission said, yeah, well, because there's covenants in that industrial park that the city set. So, but yeah, you just always have, this is the day and age where you have to be like Chad, working with people a lot and be willing to be flexible with businesses and developers and stuff and zoning. Stick to the old comprehensive plan as best possible, but yet have that flex.
Mhm.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, we don't want to spot zone all over the place. That's why you have that comprehensive plan and whatnot, but you also want to, like you said, cut that red tape. You want to sit down at the table and see what you can do to work with the people to make it happen.
Mhm.
And I think that's what we're here to do. And I think we do a good job of it.
Any more discussions?
Forgot what topic we were on. Were we on
It was on
TID 6?
TID 6.
So I haven't even talked about TID 5 yet, have I?
Because great
Um,
discussion is happening.
Wow. So TID number 5, that's going to be proposal coming down the pipe pretty quick. So TID number 5 is the downtown TID that we created for the downtown SC Swiderski project. We had a request, as everyone knows, that First State Bank is going to build a new bank building. where their drive-through is. So they have requested TID funding to make this project possible for them. The areas in orange is the existing TID. This amendment that would be coming forward would include expanding the TID to the north a little bit to bring their new structure into the TID district. So this proposal is going to be coming to the joint board of review as well on March 17th. I can't remember if we're doing, I think we're doing planning commission right away after that for this.
I think,
And then council as well, if I'm not mistaken. So I think we're doing, so this will come to planning commission and council all on March 17th as well. So
How far does the TID go up on Pearl?
Pearl right here,
Up to
Anchor
the,
Park.
up to the south
Oh, down to the south,
or down, yeah, down.
Cook Street.
Cook.
Is there a reason that some of the buildings on North Water were included? I mean, in other words, rather than an expansion, I mean, I don't know if we care, can it be just a modification? Like,
At the time when we created this, I knew there was something in the works with First State Bank. I didn't know exactly what it was. So we specifically kept that out until we knew exactly what the plan was, which was actually very good that we did. Because when they donate this lot to the city, that's basically going to change that taxable value to zero because the city's going to own it. That would have decimated the value of the TID district because we would have been removing value out of the TID, and we don't want to do that. We want to increase value in the TID. So we've specifically kept that out.
well, I meant on the other side, for instance,
Over here?
my building and Tim's building. I mean, do we benefit from having our buildings included in that district? Is there a better place for it to be?
If you are planning on increasing the value of that parcel substantially, then yes, there is a benefit. But all these parcels are already developed for the most part. So we wanted to get across the river to start, but from there, we wanted to kind of hang back and say, okay, what's going to happen, you know? So, I mean, all these buildings right here, actually, it doesn't really benefit or hurt to be in the TID unless they're going to do major.
But if we're limited to only a certain percentage of the city being allowed to be in a TID.
Another reason
are
why we didn't want to go.
Unnecessarily including those buildings, I guess is my question to you.
Correct. We didn't want to go farther. I knew this was maybe coming down the pipe, so we wanted to get kind of across the river for now.
I guess is Hans asking, maybe we want to subtract
That's exactly what I'm
some
asking,
from it?
as opposed to,
They're locked in.
I mean,
I don't know if we
maybe
can
it's
do
still
that
an
at this
expansion. but-
point,
Well, you
because if
can-
we subtract, then we're removing the value. When this TID was created, everything in orange, the value of X amount of $1 million was set. If you remove a chunk, now you're removing the value of the TID, and that's gonna hurt the TID.
Okay,
So we're kind of locked in for now.
Okay.
You know, but we really want to piecemeal, you know, opportunities moving forward. And I wanted to get to this parcel too. That's another reason why we wanted to get there as well.
Chad, I want to back up a little bit. You said March 17th. That is May
Oh,
7th,
May
May
17th.
17th.
Correct.
And as of now, it's not, we don't have any other committee meetings scheduled for that.
Yep, because we're looking at joint board of review
Yeah.
at 6 o'clock, planning commission at 6:30, and then council at 7 right now. That's on the calendar that Nicole sent out.
Okay.
But the agendas haven't been published yet by any means. That's just been on the calendar as of now. But this is going to be the proposal to amend TID number 5 to include First State Bank with their project to incentivize that. And we can use a portion of those TID dollars for this expansion for other improvements in the downtown, public improvements, like the downtown project. So that's TID number 5, expansion or amendment or whatever you want to call it, amendment.
Any other comments or questions? If not, we'll move on to updates and reports. Business updates, April?
It's me.
New business coming into town July 1st at 219 West North Water Street. It's a newly renovated business that Jose Huerta, I think he renovated it in 2018 or 2019. It's next to Lynn Tank. We have a business called Crafty Crack coming in. It's a special, she sells specialty materials. We also have that other craft place over by Anchor Park. So we'll have 2 specialty material crafty stores. And she just got the keys and she hopes to open on July 1st. We talked about the Main Street Bounce Back Grant last month, which is the $10,000 grant offered to new or expanding businesses that take over vacancies. I just heard from 2 more businesses in the New London area that received that Main Street Bounce Back Grant. I've also filled out 2 more requests, letters of acknowledgement for 2 other businesses. I want to put a plug in for the Wolf River Theatrical Troupe. They are still looking for temperature controlled floor level storage space for their equipment. They're currently in the building over by Touch and Tan, and they need to be out soon. They don't have a definite date, but just want to put a plug in for them to see if you can keep a lookout for storage space for them. They're looking to lease. I think everybody in the room knows about First State Bank's very generous donation of their entire building to the New London Public Library. The Sturgeon are in town. Thank you, Johnny. I notified 2,300 out-of-town folks to come into New London in the next 1 to 3 days and encourage them to stop at our restaurants and our shops. I want to invite the committee to a ribbon cutting on May 18th for a new business, Boss Optimal Solutions. I reported on this a couple months ago. She's located at N3762 County Road. She's over by Modern Flooring. She does QuickBooks and accounting. And then Chad, I think I saw it in your business update. Are you going to touch on the visits that we had with Amcor and Tyson?
Unless you want to.
Nope, I just want to make sure that it was mentioned. So all yours. Any questions?
Are you able to share yet what's going into the old quilting building?
I haven't gotten a hold of who I heard it was, and I just don't want to. I want to confirm it before I share it. I just need to stop down and talk to the guys. I just haven't gotten down there yet.
And the owner is going to lease.
Yes,
It's not gonna- the
he's
owner-
leasing.
The owner's remodeling it, but they're gonna lease to a
Mhm,
business.
I mean, it looks like they're moving stuff in already.
mhm. I know it's signed. I just don't, I don't want to spill the beans until I talk with them.
Okay, nothing more on that. We can have the city administrator report, Mr. Hort.
As April indicated, we had some business meet and greets in the last month. April 4th, April and I met with the new plant manager at Tyson, Tammy Powers. Sounds like things are going much better for their workforce numbers. The previous manager said that they were hurting quite a bit, but it sounds like things are almost to a back to normal open amount. I mean, it
Mhm.
sounds like they've always got a reoccurring amount that's for open positions, but it sounds like they're back to a normal open amount. We also had a tour of the hot dog line, so very interesting. And then I had hot dogs at night for supper. So I don't know if that was a good thing or bad thing. It is what it is.
I would not. want to eat dogs after-
I get home and there's hot dogs on the table for supper. April 6th, Mayor Mark and I went to Greenville. We're not going to say who the business is for confidentiality, but we did meet with a business owner who has expressed interest in expansion. We took the opportunity to really promote our industrial park for their expansion. So hopefully that comes to some fruition there. April 12th, April Kapitsky, Mayor Mark and I met with representatives from the Amcor Flexibles North America Healthcare Plant. That's the one that's on Industrial Loop Road. They're also doing very well. Anticipated by the end of the month, they will have all open positions filled. They recently changed their schedule with their union. They're now going to be going to a 4-day on, 4-day off schedule, which they reported is going very well. One thing I didn't realize is each one of those plants and the graphics factory, they're all separate.
Mhm.
They're not managed all under the same person per se. So, I mean, if you want to get a hold of one person in a plant, there's different contacts, they don't report to the same person at any point in time. So I also continue to receive facade improvement grants. I got 3 of them approved to date. 200 West North Water Street, that's the quilting store. 218 Water Street, I think, is that one yours?
That's what I just
Yours.
reported on. Yeah, or no.
And then 323, I think that is
Breeze.
John, or no, St. Marie.
Breeze,
Oh,
isn't it?
replacing
That's
siding.
ju-
Yeah, that's sidings. Michael
Looks
St.
so
Marie is gonna be
nice.
changing some windows as well too, so. But that might
does
be
look
just-
nice.
Doesn't it?
Yep, that was a.
so
Very
turned
nice
out well.
improvement.
There's things happening. I also put a link in your packet. There is an upcoming webinar on May 12th by UW Extension, Employee Ownership, a Business Success and Retention Strategy. There's a link there. I am signed up for it, but if anybody else is free that day, there's just sounds like a really good webinar, probably for private businesses as well. I also just want to take the opportunity to talk about our marketing branding strategy. John, thanks you so much for the picture.
What a cute kid.
He's a cute kid. But we continue to brand or continue to express our brand that New London is the address for everything, including this one. It says Memories has an address. And Josh did 2 really cool videos to advertise and promote the upcoming sturgeon run. So I'm gonna. Just promoting all the shoreline fishing and viewing areas that we have in New London. Including the Sturgeon Trail, we got nearly 7,000 linear feet of
That's awesome.
available shoreline, public shoreline fishing and viewing access. And then he had this video ready to go when the sturgeon actually started spawning. And this was published today to say, hey, they're here. And then he went out today and also got videos like live shots and it was posting them on within that post to try to say, hey, here they are. There's
Very cool.
he did 3 different areas on Riverside Park and then Pfeiffer Park and the Sturgeon Trail. So he was out there taking video shots and really promoting the sturgeon spawn.
Are they spawning in Pfeiffer Park too? I know that they were really.
This is
thick
Pfeiffer
behind-
Park at 11 o'clock.
Huh.
I forgot all about that one, but they were along the rocks. Teddy Coppersmith, we rip-wrapped his yard last year and they were thick over there. You
Really?
could- It was like whitewater, but it seemed like they found rocks anywhere they could recently here in
It
New
was really
London.
cool that he went around and, hey, here.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, he did
found
nice
it right on
job.
there. He did all go to Memorial Park too, and he saw a little bit. He just said the lighting and the angle and everything, he just couldn't get a good video for over there, but he did a really good job of promoting the sturgeon spawn coming to New London. I mean, we put out this original video 2 weeks ago to try to, and we marketed it 50-mile radius around town, and then also in the Madison and Milwaukee areas. We threw like $40 at it, which was,
Mhm.
nothing for advertising, and try to tell people, think about New London when the sturgeon spawn. And then he followed up today with this one to try to tell everybody that
I can't even tell you how many times our phone is ringing 608 and 262-414 area codes of Milwaukee and Madison of people who want to come here.
Asking about
Sure.
that, huh?
Yeah.
Nice.
I really.
we targeted market those 2 markets.
Mhm.
I really like how he had a map showing the other, because like the Pfeiffer Park and the other areas, there are some people that they don't have as much mobility to go on a long walk out here when on the Sturgeon Trail can be a little bit congested because that's where everyone. So it's nice for people to have those I would say more intimate viewing opportunities in some of our other parks where they spawn.
Mhm.
Do we have any paper maps? And something that you could have at the chamber,
this-
something you could have here?
We have information on the Sturgeon Trail.
Yeah.
But
But like that video there had
Something-
arrows of those locations.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good
where-
idea. That's something I could look into for the Tourism Commission.
That'd
And
be cool.
Ginger created a shoreline fishing map And it would probably be fairly easy to, she uses that often, especially at Kids Fishing Day. We put one in every kid's tackle box or we pass them out.
Kind of make it
And-
a multi-use.
But
Mhm.
yeah, you could have a sturgeon viewing map too, which Josh hit it right on the head with his video. You know, he was
Yeah.
really,
That's a good idea.
it was a great idea, because I would love to have something like that on paper for when the people that come in person to the chamber or in through our door at our
Well,
place.
you look over here at Sturgeon Trail, I mean, it's packed,
Yep,
you know, well, where else can we go? Well,
Yep.
some people, that's the only place they
for
know.
sure.
See
I
them
love it.
right in town.
You know, and if businesses want to get involved and put a coupon on it, and then after they're done with viewing, 50 cents off for an ice cream at Dairy Queen or something, you know,
Mhm.
kind of gets them to go somewhere else. So there's an opportunity there as well. If there's nothing else with that, Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is the last meeting for Elena Wolf.
I
before the
believe
next-
so.
So we want to congratulate Elena and thank her for being on the committee before she graduates and moves on, and we'll have our next committee members from the school district. Do you have that all figured out for the next committee members, Mayor Mark?
For the next ones, we have it posted right now, and then the principal is gonna get back to us once it closes, and I thought that was this week.
So, but congratulations and thank you for being on the
Yeah,
committee
thank
and
you.
Thank you.
sharing your input for the committee.
Nothing else. We will review potential agenda items for the future meetings.
Does anybody have anything right now? I'm sure, well, we'll have a follow-up maybe from our. Well, we won't have the May walkthrough yet, will we? April. Well, it'll be that morning.
Yeah, we can do a recap on that.
Yep.
Of the kickoff meeting.
Yep. So our Connect Communities meeting. Got nothing else right now. There's a lot going on. It's just, there's
Mm,
more reports and things like that, but nothing for quite consideration for action items quite yet I can think of, but there's definitely, April can attest, there is a lot going on. So,
A lot of fun things.
which is cool. It's awesome.
All right, next we'll ask for any public comment.
I just want to thank the committee for the great discussion. I feel like sometimes meetings are rushed and there was just really great discussion and I really appreciate it. So thank you.
No other comment. We will move forward to review the next meeting date.
Next regular meeting date would be the day after Memorial Day on Tuesday, May 31st. Would that work out? I mean, should work out for everybody, I would think.
All right, being that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second. Motion by Mr. Verche, Thompson seconded.